Hi everybody, today I wanted to tell you about all the books I read in November. So I only read 3 books in November, which makes me feel a little bit sad because this year I've read a lot, and more than in the last 2 years. So as in each month I feel like I've read more, and I've been really consistent in reading a lot. So 3 books doesn't feel like very much, but there we are. It's been busy, I've been tired. So I read 2 physical, 2 paperbacks and 1 audiobook. So I'll do them in order. The first book I read was Gin, Glorious Gin by Olivia Williams. Now this is one of the books that my friend Laura found by the side of the road. So I've talked about this before, but basically Laura likes to make me read things. So she either gives me books that she's bought for herself and then not read, or in this instance she found a pile of books by the side of the road that someone was giving away and just gave them all to me. So on Instagram I use the hashtag books Laura made me read, so if you want to see some of the others that I've read, then you can have a look at that hashtag. So for a start, I don't drink gin, or well, I kind of do, but I'll come to that. So Gin, Glorious Gin is basically sort of a cultural look at gin. So it goes back to the 1600s, I think, of gin coming over from Holland, I think. And then it goes through time and talks about the different phases. So gin being a drink that was drunk, it was very kind of cheap and people drank too much of, and it was drunk a lot in like the slums in London, and caused a lot of social problems, and then that's why gin was perceived a certain way. And then also looking at it as when it's been like a more high profile and high class drink, when with like particularly it being used in cocktails and things, and looking at all the different gin companies and where they come from, and like who founded them and all that kind of stuff. Which it was interesting, and I thought it was really well written. And it tied in quite nicely with the fact that I read The Five last month, which a lot of that's the book about the Jack the Ripper victims, and a number of those had drinking problems, and so it kind of talking about some of the social issues with drinking tied in. So I was interested, but not that interested, and that was the trouble with this book. So it absolutely is a good book. Don't take me saying that I didn't get on with it of it being a bad book. If you are interested in gin and the history of alcohol and from sort of a cultural perspective, I really would recommend it, but I just think it just wasn't for me. It didn't excite me, and with non-fiction I like it to be something that I find really inspiring, or if it's not something really kind of, you know, close to my heart, and that's why I find it inspiring or interesting, you know. Otherwise I feel it needs to be a bit more story based, and then I can get into it, or more about people. I don't know, yeah, it just wasn't for me, but it is a good book. Interestingly though, so I didn't think I drank gin. It's not a drink I would really ever order. I can only think of once me ever ordering it in a bar. But that said, I didn't realise until I read this that Pimm's is gin, and I do drink Pimm's, and I also drink Martini Rosso, which is also gin, which I didn't know, or like gin based. So that was interesting. So I thought I didn't like gin. Well, I feel like I've said gin so many times. What I think the truth is I don't like tonic water, and like I don't like fizzy water at all. So I actually think it's that. I don't like gin and tonic, but because I don't like tonic. Because the one time I drank gin in a bar was fancy gin, rhubarb gin with ginger beer, and that was really nice. So yeah, it's a good book. I would recommend. It just wasn't for me. So I think I gave it 3 stars, because I normally rate books based on how much I enjoy them, but it felt wrong to give it, because for me, in terms of how much I enjoyed reading it, it was probably a 2-star, but it didn't seem fair because I absolutely believe it's well researched and well written, so I gave it a 3 in a sort of, you know, it's a good book, I just didn't like it. So yeah, so there's that one. Then the next book that I read this month, so this one took me a long time. I think it took me 2 weeks to read, which is one of the reasons why I didn't read very much this month. alongside that, I was listening to the audiobook of Midnight Sun by Stephanie. Is it Meyer? Mayer? I feel like I should know. Midnight Sun came out this year. It's the male perspective, well, Edward's perspective from the first Twilight book, which is called Twilight, I think. I'm suddenly doubting it. It's called Twilight, right? I'm sure it is. Is it the Twilight Saga and the first book is called something else? I've literally just reread them this year and I have no idea. Whatever. Twilight book number 1. It's Edward's perspective instead of Bella's perspective. When I saw this was coming out, because there's been a bit of stuff about it because it was meant to be released a few years ago and then it got leaked, so Stephanie Meyer got all upset and then said she wasn't going to publish it, and then now she has published it. So and yeah, when it came out this year I thought, oh, actually I would quite like to read that. I've not read Life After Death actually, which is the one where they switched the genders of the characters, so that one would be worth a read. But anyway, when this one came out, it's actually part of why I did a Twilight reread. I have only ever read the Twilight books as audiobooks because I just like them as audio. I think because they're a bit like the Harry Potter audiobooks for me. They're kind of easy listening and I find them quite calming in that I already know the story and I quite like the narration. In the case of Twilight, I find them quite funny sometimes. So it was a nice thing to reread this year. It felt kind of comforting. So anyway, I wanted to listen to this one. And I've been on the waiting list for it for ages because I use a library app. I use Overdrive. So you have to wait for it to be available, which I don't understand. Can anyone tell me, why is there a waiting list? Because surely if it's digital, there's no limit. Is it to do with licensing? I'd like to know. Anyway, it's a big, beefy boy, this book. It was when I downloaded it. It wouldn't even fit on my phone because my phone is always full, for a start. It's a 25-hour audiobook. That's huge, massive audiobook. So I listened to it on, I think, 1.6 times because I was like, I haven't got 25 hours. But that still makes it like 18 hours or something. Anyway, so it was long and I think the loan was like 3 weeks, so I was quite conscious that I really needed to get through it, and I think I only just managed to listen to it. So I really enjoyed it in the sense of I like the Twilight Saga. I've said on here before, I have reservations about it. I find the relationships really toxic. There are lots of issues with it that I've talked about on here. But as I say, I just find it enjoyable. I find the stories enjoyable. I really can't justify it any more than that. So on that respect, I really enjoyed it. The narration was good. What I thought was interesting is seeing Edward's take on things actually made the relationship seem less damaging because you could see where he came from and why he reacted certain ways and why. Because in the books he is very much like, oh, I'm so dangerous, don't come close to me, Bella, you know, I could just kill you like that. And she's like, oh, and it's like, oh no, if my daughter was with someone like that, just no. But you do understand more of why he says the things he does, why he is so like, I'm so sparkly, love me, you know, yeah, it's good. It gives you a bit, it takes away a little bit from that kind of toxic side of things that isn't very pleasant. It's very angsty, which is enjoyable. It did make me laugh a bit because, I mean, they're all teenagers as well. He's very angst-ridden and yeah, it was enjoyable. It's I think it's not one of my favourites. I have a real soft spot for the original saga, but if you like the Twilight Saga, if you read the first one, obviously because this is a retelling, then give it a go. It's a pleasant read. I enjoyed it. Yeah. Not as much as the others, but still enjoyed it. What a hair on my arm. Then the last book that I read this month was this one, which is Ingo by Helen Dunmore. Now, I've wanted to read, well, not this one, but I wanted to read this series. I don't think I realised it was a series. I've had one of these on my Goodreads want to watch for ages. Want to watch, want to read. And it's not this one. I think it's the third one, and I didn't realise it was a series. And then I saw that one in a charity shop and went, oh, that's on my to-read list. I'll pick that up. This is like a month ago when charity shops were open. And then I went to read it and was like, oh, no, this isn't the first in the series. Then I was asking about the books on a Facebook group I'm on, and somebody said, actually, I've got the first two. Do you want them? And she kindly sent them to me, sold them to me, which I appreciate very much. So then that meant I could read the first one. So Ingo, this is like a middle grade fiction about mainly about this girl called Sapphire, but she's also got her brother Connor and her mum and dad, and they live in a Cornish village very close to the sea, and they're very kind of sea people, you know, they're down on the beach all the time. And then the brother keeps disappearing, and something happens to the dad, and all this stuff starts to snowball from there. I mean, really the hint's on the cover that it involves mermaids at some point, which is why I was interested. So I really liked this. I love the southwest, so the Cornish setting was brilliant. Love the mermaids, love the sea creatures, and it's got a nice mysterious tone to it. It doesn't answer all the questions, and it's kind of magical, but without telling you like everything about how the system works. It's all a bit kind of mysterious, and well, how does this work then, and why are they like that? And I like it. It's very, just not too, yeah, it's good. It's got a nice vibe to it. I like the way that the mermaids are written. They are very different to humans, and it's very interesting how that's done. It's just, I like it when there's a new take, a new spin on the mermaid mythos, I suppose. So yeah, it was good. I think the reason I didn't love it is because it's aimed at middle years, so you know, it was alright. It's just not like, it's not written for me, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it was good, but I wasn't reading it going, oh, I love this is great, which some mermaid or sea-based books I do. But yeah, it was like, yeah, this is alright. That's my response to it. If you like sea-based books, if you like quite an easy read, it's not childish, it's just, you know, easy going, not too deep, not too scary, you know, then I would give it a go. It's a nice little mermaid story, and I've got 4 of them, I think, and I think there's 5 altogether. So currently I'm reading the second one in this series, which is good too. So we'll see how I get on with the others. But yeah, this was, I mean, good enough that I want to read the others. So yeah, I like it. There's loads of Cornish words in it as well, which is cool. So good. And in fact, I'm like, I haven't finished. Also, I've given this to my daughter because she loves mermaids, and I was in 2 minds about whether to let her read it or not, because from what I read online about it, I thought it might be a bit too grown up, but having read it, I feel completely comfortable. So she's just coming up to 8, and she, with her reading age and her personality and how she will take this book, she will enjoy this, and she won't find it scary or worrying. But as always, if you're going to let a kid read it, make sure that, you know, you know what they're reading, and you know the stuff. But I've passed that on to her, so she will read that at some point. It might not be till she's 10 anyway, by the time she's read everything else she's got. Anyway, let me know if you've read any of those. Let me know what you're reading. As always, give me some recommendations if there's some things that you think I might like. Hopefully I'll read a bit more in December. I don't know though, really busy at the moment. How are you guys? Busy, not busy? Let me know how you're doing in the comments. Anyway, please hit like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more videos like this one, and take care.